Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank all of the speakers who made contributions here today, and I think it is a really important motion. And I want to respond to some of the contributions, starting with Dr. Duncan Smith of the Labour Party, who made in his contribution and spent half of his time attacking Sinn Féin on a false assumption that we were against the remaining public health restrictions, where in fact what we're against is giving emergency powers to a minister where he makes regulations that have never come back into this Dáil for any proper scrutiny or any proper debate. And what we are seeking is that we have proper accountability and transparency. And it strikes me as a pattern from Labour Party speakers in this House that they come in, they spend most of their time attacking the opposition, looking for a pat on the head from the Minister or the Taoiseach on the Taoiseach who happens to be in the chamber, and all it shows is that they are a weak and ineffective opposition. But I want to come back to the motion and some of the points that were made in the Minister's speech, Minister for Health that is. And it was disappointing what he said on the McHugh report and on the issue of student nurses and midwives, because, as was pointed out by the Cathaoirleach in her contribution, what matters is what the government are going to do, because this again is becoming a pattern where the government don't oppose a motion, but they actually don't implement it either. And I think that is actually disingenuous. There's nothing in the Minister's speech where he says that he will publish the McHugh report. There's nothing in his speech where he says when he will publish the report, if indeed he will. And then he says, I will seek Cabinet approval to increase the pay of interns. He doesn't say when. He doesn't say when that's going to go to Cabinet. But he also says that he will seek approval to extend payment of the pandemic placement grant. And I will be also supporting additional recommendations. And we have no idea what those additional recommendations are. And not just us, the Student Nurses and Midwives and the Irish Nurses and Midwives organisation, who were disrespected by not being talked to and having negotiations with the government on this. They're as much in the dark as anybody else, and I think that is really disrespectful. The Minister also then, when he talks about what's actually happening in our hospitals at the moment, and I had a very lengthy exchange with the Minister earlier about the real crisis that we have with emergency department attendance up, trolley count up, and the huge waiting lists. And in his speech he says the winter plan will provide for the appropriate, safe and timely care for patients. It will not. There is nothing in this winter plan that will deal with the crisis that we have in our hospitals. It's a crisis-driven response. Every year we come to the winter, we have a real crisis in our hospitals. The government come out with a plan that actually can't be implemented because you can't magic up staff or magic up beds or magic up capacity in the winter when you're in the throes of a crisis. So all of this is just window dressing, and it's a head-in-the-sand approach. This will not substantially increase capacity, and it will not reduce waiting lists. And the head-in-the-sand approach is because what we're actually seeing is a cancellation of procedures right across the board, left, right and centre. In every hospital that I visited, they're cancelling electives and in some cases cancelling time-sensitive care. That's going to drive up waiting lists. So I have to say this ostrich-like head-in-the-sand approach from the Minister for Health, that he can come in and say his winter plan is going to provide appropriate, safe and timely care when you only have to talk to anybody who works on the front line in any hospital in this state and they will tell you that that is simply not the case. I also want to finish by echoing what the Cathaoirleach in her contribution said, that it's really important if the government opposes a motion that they actually implement it. I would like to hear from the Minister for Health if and when he will publish the McHugh report. I then, more importantly, want to see what exactly is the Minister going to do. We have some sense what he's going to do for fourth-year interns. We have some sense what he's going to do for the first, second and third years for the €100 payment, which was actually unsatisfactory, but no sense of whether that's going to be permanent and what other measures are going to be put in place. And I certainly don't believe that the winter plan and the waiting list strategy or plan that the Minister has put in place is going to work. It's more this glossy brochure approach to government where we present all of these plans, but in reality it doesn't add up to anything of substance, and I don't believe that it will make the difference that it needs to make.